Hi, and thank you for taking the time to watch the overview video of Mission Control, our project management solution. We're going to be taking a quick look over all of the high-level features that Mission Control has to offer. Now, it's jam-packed with a variety of features that help you keep your projects on track. You have the ability to keep a record of your projects, your milestones, and your actions. There are tools to help you manage all of that, including Gantt charts, resource capacity planning schedulers, Kanban whiteboards. You can log your time and your expenses, and you can track both your billable and non-billable effort on the project, therefore allowing you to keep a full P&L across the project. You're able to build out skills profiles for each individual person working on the project, as well as keeping track of any holidays and non-working days. Um, you're also able to generate invoices based on the work that you've done on your projects, and you can keep a track of how those projects are performing against budget and schedule using the PMO dashboard. Being native to Salesforce, you're able to draw on the native analytics of the reports and dashboards, and you can also collaborate with colleagues using the built-in chatter function. And Mission Control is able to be used in Salesforce Classic, Lightning Experience, and Salesforce One. So this overview video will be run in Lightning Experience, and if you do wish to see it in Salesforce Classic, please feel free to get in touch. As I just mentioned, Mission Control is built natively on the Salesforce platform. Now, there are a number of benefits of using a native application. They include being able to add custom fields to any of the objects that come with Mission Control, like you can any other object inside Salesforce. You're also able to build out your own business processes by drawing on the validation rules, workflow rules, process builders. You have the ability to control access down to a field level security based on your standard Salesforce profiles and permissions. In order to have mission control, a user must first have a Salesforce user license. The licenses we support include Professional, Enterprise, Unlimited, and Performance editions. You can also add mission control to Force.com, Chatter Plus, or any of the community licenses such as employee, customer, or partner communities. So let's jump in and take a look at mission control in more detail. We're going to start by taking a look at the Mission Control console. The console gives us quick launch access to all of the key parts of Mission Control. Now we can still access all of those individual elements via the navigation menu at the top, but as you can see, once we're on the console, we've got access to a number of different areas of the system. Up in the top right, you can see I've got quick launch access to some of the key tools within the system. So I can jump into the resource scheduler to do my capacity planning. I can create new roles, which are the individual records for the resources that are going to be working on the projects for us. I can access my timesheet, log expenses, access the PMO dashboard, and jump through to the Kanban whiteboard. Here we're able to access a list of all of our active projects. So this is everything we're working on in Mission Control currently. We're able to jump through to a project overview page. We can make a deep clone of an existing project. We're able to add new actions to any of our existing projects. We can also jump through and reschedule them if we need to. We can go through to the Gantt chart and again access to the scheduler. This section here allows us to build the framework out for a new project. The Daily Digest is an email that goes out on a daily basis to each individual person within the system, and we're able to set that to active, specify the time, and then update that, and then every day that email will go out to each individual person. This is where we schedule our access progress tracking, which is a feature that's required for the PMO dashboard. Over on the right hand side, we've got a number of automated features that things that Mission Control will do for us to save us having to do them manually. Now each one of those can be disabled if we don't want them to happen, but ultimately they're there to help you keep your data up to date. So we're going to start building out a new project inside Mission Control. So the easiest way to do that, to launch a new project, is come to the console and use the Create Project component here. So what we're going to do is build out a new website for this company. So I'm going to need to add a few milestones onto the project. So once I'm ready here, I'm going to be clicking the Create Project button. What that will do is create my project. It will create my 3 milestones here, and then it will drop me onto the project page so I can and then build out more detail. So what I'm going to do first of all is click on Edit so I can add in a few more settings around the project. So I'm able to specify who's the overall project manager, so I'm going to be referencing a role of an individual person there. Who's the company that we're doing the work for? Who's the contact at that company that that's our main contact, and which opportunity has been closed won inside Salesforce. That means we need to deliver this project. Now I can also specify here whether I've got fixed price or time and materials. So I'm going to say in this example it's a fixed price project and I've got a budget of $6,000 to build this project. Now I have the ability to specify my billing rate and my cost rate on my project, and I can specify one of three values here. So my billing rate is my rate that I'm charging my customer to do the work. My cost rate is what I'm paying my team to do the work for me. Now I've got these three options of standard, role-based or skill-based. Standard means regardless of who's doing the work, we're all being charged out at the same day rate. Role-based might be that if Colin is working on the project, we charge him out at $200 an hour. If Chris is working on the project, we charge him out at $150. Skill based would be picking up the skills associated to delivering a particular action. So for example, if Colin is designing websites, we might charge him at $200 an hour, but if he's delivering training, we might charge him at $175. So in keeping this one simple, I'm going to use standard in this example. I'm going to say we've got a day rate of $1,200 a day, and over on the costs I've got the same options, and again I'm going to keep that one simple and say we all get paid $800 a day. So what that shows me is if we do a day's worth of effort on the project, we'll be generating $1,200 revenue, we'll be incurring $800 costs, so we know there's a $400 margin on that effort, therefore we can track the profit and loss of the project at any point in time. I also have the ability to specify whether we can charge the client overtime. If we can, what's the ratio we charge them? Do we pay our staff overtime? And if we do, what's the ratio we pay them? Now we can also add whether this is a non-billable project, whether we want it to be excluded from the timesheet or the scheduler. Do we want it to be displayed on the PMO dashboard? Over on the right hand side I can select a color. Now the color doesn't have any function other than when we look at it later on in the demo and we see the actions on the scheduler or on the whiteboard, they'll be displayed in the color that we've specified here. Now we can also have our timesheets approved by two individuals. So we can choose to have the time logs approved by the project owner and or the individual person's role manager. So if either of these boxes are ticked, that all time logs will need to be reviewed and approved before they get accounted for on the financials of the project. Otherwise, if you're not looking to use those approval processes, you simply leave them false and everything will automatically default to approved. Now we also have the ability to generate invoices on our projects. So what I'm going to do here is just put in a purchase order number. I'm going to specify the tax rate that I'm wanting to use, and I'm going to specify the billing cycle. Now I've got one of three options here. My process is to do it manually, or milestone, or periodic. So manual is self-explanatory, as and when we need to create the invoice we'll just go off and do it. Milestone will allow us to automatically raise an invoice when we complete a particular milestone on a project. Alternatively, if it's periodic, we can be running that for time and material projects. That will allow us to specify on a weekly, fortnightly or monthly basis how we raise invoices. So what we'll do is just set that to milestone, and we'll take a look at that later in the demo. Now a lot of these fields will be calculated for us automatically by Mission Control. Now I do also have the ability to track expenses. So of my $6,000 budget, I might say I expect 500 of that to go on expenses. As the team start logging those expenses and they get approved, they'll come into the actuals, and they'll be factored into the profit and loss. So I've got my project and my milestones now ready. So the next step is for me to build out the individual actions. And the quickest way to do that is via this Create Actions button here. Now this page loads up one individual record for me to fill in. So this is one action ready to complete, but I know I'm going to need a bunch more. So I'm just going to add a few more items to the list. So what I'm going to do for my first action, it's going to be part of the design milestone, and it's going to be that I'm going to be designing wireframes, and I can specify both billable and non-billable hours. So I'm going to say there's 6 billable hours, there's no non-billable effort, and I would like to get that done today. Now if I know who's going to do this work, I can simply select them from this list here. Now if I'm not sure and I need to go and search for them based on skill set or capacity, I can jump into the resource assignment wizard. Now this is a tool that allows me to have a search for the various people that I have in the system. Now you'll see it's assuming I'm going to be the owner because I'm creating it, but if I scroll down you'll see I've got a big long list of everyone that is in mission control, and you can see that these 6 hours are pushing me over my time. So what I could do is drag Chris down here and make him the owner instead. So as I've done that, it's taken the hours off me and put them onto Chris's schedule. And for the sake of the demo, I'm actually going to leave that as myself. Now what I'm going to do though is to try and get some of this time off my schedule is bring in what we call contributors. So this is people that are going to be helping me deliver this action. Now before I just go and grab anyone, what I want to do is go and search for them based on their skills and team profile. So I'm going to say, well, I know I need someone on this team, I know I need someone with this skill, and I know I need someone who has this skill. So only show me people that match that criteria. So now I've got a much shorter list of people, and what I can do is comfortably pull these guys down and make them contributors. So I'm going to drag Andrea down here and say of my 6 hours I'm going to ask Andrea to do 2 of them. So as I do that, the time goes on to Andrea and off me. Now I'll also pull Amy down as well, and she'll also do 2 hours for us as well. Now that's my action ready to create. Now I have the ability to go one level below my action, and we call that checklist items. So this is the individual detail that we might want to identify for the team so they understand what's required. So as part of designing these wireframes, we might need to do a home page. We might also need to do a content page. And one more, we might need to do a contact us page. So these become individual tick box items that can just be quickly ticked off and once we're underway with the project. So once I'm happy with everything there, click on save, and now I'm on to the next action, which will be to design the UI. That's going to have 8 hours, and I would like to get that done tomorrow. So I'm just going to select myself and assign that action to me. Now I'm just going to build out the rest of the actions here, and then we'll have our project completed. Now we do also have the ability to track costs, enter notes, specify whether individual items are non-billable. We can notify people immediately. We can also create standard Salesforce tasks and events, as well as excluding specific things from the scheduler or the timesheet. And we also offer you the ability to set up recurring actions. So once I'm happy with that, I'm going to click on create, and that will be all of my actions created. So now that we've got our project created and ready to start work on, let's take a quick look at the project overview page that's been built up for us. So first of all, if I look at the Insights tab, I get a number of KPIs here that are populated for me just to give me a high-level summary of what's what's going on with the project. So it gives me an indication of the number of actions that have been completed, anything that's overdue, any risks that we might have, our CPI and SPI pulled in from our PMO dashboard, and then some high-level summaries around the like the project billables, the hours, the P&L, and the invoices that are getting generated. So jumping on to the Overview tab, again, I get a couple of charts at the top, and then what I've got down the bottom here is a tree structure that I'm able to drill down. So right now I'm looking at the milestones, and I can see I've got some warning signs here if I've got my end dates approaching. But what I can do is actually click on the plus sign there just to expand the details right down to the action. So again, now I'm looking at the individual actions. I can see key dates, hours summary. I can see that this has got contributors on it, and I can access the resource assignment wizard for each action. And again, if the action does have checklist items underneath that, what I'm able to do is just expand that once more, and then I've got the individual checklist items there. Now I have the ability to do an inline edit of each individual action, each individual checklist item there, to tick them off as and when they've been done. So I get full visibility of the entire project on this tree structure here. I can jump through to the Detail tab, and that just gives me the standard page layout from the project object. The time logs, the expenses, the risks, and the billing. These are all going to give me individual access to key parts of the system. So the time logs will load up my burn down chart and my hours summary chart, and it will give me a timeline of any hours that have already been logged on the project. So as we start logging hours against this project, they will be they'll be plotted onto this timeline. Similar with the expenses and risks and the billing, they will all start to populate once we start working through the project. The whiteboard and the Gantt chart also give us access to key parts of the system. So if I load the whiteboard, you'll see I have access to all of my individual actions. So the whiteboard is filtered down for this specific project, and then I can also access the Gantt chart. So taking a look over on the right hand side, we've got the ability to view our trackpad, so we can see the chatter feed. We can see a timeline that will plot all of our key dates for the project as they start happening, and we also have the ability to log time and log expenses on a particular project. I also have the ability to collapse that out of the way, so if I want to maximize the space for the key page, I can just minimize that, and then when I'm ready I can expand it again by clicking on the button there. Now, looking at the Gantt chart in a bit more detail, my Gantt chart is fully interactive. It allows me to drag and drop and reschedule individual actions. I can pick up an entire milestone and reschedule the milestone, and all the actions will be rescheduled that are contained within that milestone. I also have the ability to create dependencies. So if I just drag and drop from one milestone to the next, I'm able to create those dependencies between those actions. Now, the benefits of this are that if I reschedule the parent, you'll see that all of the children automatically reschedule by the same period of time. And I can also extend the duration of individual actions. So if I need to extend that out to be 2 days, you'll see that actually extends everything else out as well. Now, taking that that impact there, that would actually result in this action being scheduled to happen on a Saturday. Now, we've got our system set up to ignore non-working days, so my system's set up to where I don't work on Saturday or Sunday. So on this basis, if we were to reschedule this would automatically be rescheduled to the Monday, which will be my next available working day. Taking that one step further, we can actually track the holidays of each individual resource. So if it happens to be that Colin's on holiday on Monday, it would automatically reschedule it to the Tuesday. Now, we also have the ability to load in baselines and load in checklist items. So I'm just going to save that at this stage. So now that that's saved, I can show you, obviously I've made a few changes there. So if I load in my baselines, I can see the original scope of when we thought we were going to do the work in comparison to how we actually delivered it. So we can see there that this action was stretched out 2 days, it resulted in this action being delayed by a day, and then this all got pushed out a couple of days as well. We also have the ability to export the Gantt chart as a PDF. You'll see I'm able to download a PDF version of that Gantt chart that can be then emailed off to the client. Taking a look at the scheduler, we can see that we're able to manage all of our resource capacity planning from here. So what we can see down the left hand side is a row for each individual project resource that we've got in the system, and if I scroll down you'll see I've got a big long list of everyone on the team. Over the page I'm able to see a timeline, and I'm currently looking at a 2-week period, and I can see all of the individual actions that have been assigned to each person over the course of this 2-week timeline. So as I say, I'm looking at 2 weeks, but I can adjust that. So if I expand the settings section here, you'll see I've got this slider here, so I can change that to 1 week, and then that will dynamically adjust the board to just show me my 1 week timeline. Or I can extend it out to 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever it might be, down to my personal preference, right out to a 12-week period. So if I'm trying to assess the capacity of the team over the next 3 months to take on some new work, I can look at their current capacity on this page. Now I've also got the ability to navigate backwards and forwards here. I can actually say, well, maybe I've got a new job coming up in a couple of weeks, and let me just jump forward and check the capacity of the team there, or I can jump back to today. So if I drop that back down to 2 weeks, and we'll just take a look in a bit more detail now. On each individual role record, we specify how many hours per week that person is available. Now on my record it specifies that I'm available to work 32 hours a week, so over this 2-week period I should have 64 hours available to me. But you can see it's telling me I've got 58, and that's because I've got this public holiday assigned to me next Friday. So it's automatically reduced my availability to reflect the time that I'm taking off. So what this is showing me is I've got 86 hours over a 58-hour availability. So it's flagged up red that I'm overutilized, therefore it's letting me know that there's a bottleneck on me as a resource. So what I'm able to do is actually drag and drop this work off to other people to make sure it's not going to be bottlenecked because of me. So now before I go and give it to anyone else, I want to make sure I'm going to give it to someone with the right skill set. So again, expand these settings, and then I can use these filters to find the right people. So what I'm going to say is I need someone on the consultants team, I need someone with this skill, and I need someone with this skill. So filtering that down, it's only going to show me people that match that criteria. So now I can collapse those settings and take a look again, and I've got a much shorter list of people. So now what I can do is comfortably just drag and drop this work off to my colleagues, and as I'm doing that you'll notice that my hours are going down and theirs are going up. So I'm going to be reassigning some of this work off to other guys on the team, and aiming to get myself back in the black on my availability. So there you can see there I've dropped back within my capacity. So once I'm happy with that, I can click on save. That just gives me confirmation that that's been done, and then all of those actions have been transferred over to those individuals. Now obviously I'm back within my capacity here, but I might have bottlenecks during this 2-week timeline. So what I can do is actually jump into the hours tab here, and that will let me take a view of the distribution of the hours during this period. So I can quickly see any hotspot areas where we might have over allocated. So you can see here I've got Kerry having 2 very busy days, Monday and Tuesday, and then pretty much nothing Wednesday or Thursday. So what we'll look to do is maybe balance that out and reschedule some of that there. And same on this one here. I can see that it hasn't really been evenly distributed, so I might want to sort of balance that out through this week, or maybe try and reschedule to some of my other team members. So I can use that to just fine-tune the allocations. The whiteboard is our Kanban interface inside Mission Control, and it allows us to see all of our actions as individual sticky notes as if they were stuck to a whiteboard in the office. What we're able to do is drag and drop those from one status column to another to update the progress on the project. So at a high level, we can see here we've got our columns for planned, in progress, on hold, complete, etc. And we can see that we've got 141 actions that are planned, and we've got 530.5 hours of effort remaining. Now looking at the individual sticky notes, I can see the action name, I can see links through to the action, milestone and project. I can see the start date, end date, hours scheduled, hours completed and completion percentage. And I'm able to change the top 4 fields are static, but I'm able to change the bottom 5 fields to suit my own preferences by just jumping into the settings tab up here. Now, what I'm able to do to reflect progress on an action, I can actually just drag and drop that and move it from one column to another. What that will do is update the status of that action, and it will transfer the time across into the in progress column. Now I'm currently looking at status, but what I can do is choose what drives my column headings. So I could say actually instead of status I might want to look at priority. So by selecting that, it will update the columns. And you can see there what it's done is actually adjusted the columns. So now I've got high, medium and low. So what I'm able to do is, again, same principle, just pick up an action and drag it to reset the priority. So I've just made that one a low priority item, and then I can go and grab another one and make that a high priority item. Now I can also adjust that to look at any one of these columns here. So for example, if I want to say maybe look at action owner. Now you can see what it's done is organized the columns based on who actually owns the action. So I can see each individual person and all of the effort that they've been assigned. Now it might be that I say, okay, well, Carey can't do this training, so what I'm going to do is drag that over there and give it to Chris, and then that will update, and it will be assigned to Chris to work on. Now I don't have to come to this view. I can reassign work from any one of these views. So let me drop back to status. Now what I'm able to do is actually say, okay, well, maybe Chris has just come to me and we need to reassign this to someone else. So what I could do is go and grab Blake over here and drag Blake across and pop him on top of Chris's photo, and what that will do is actually transfer the action over to be owned by Blake. Now I've also got the ability to adjust my filters, so I can apply a filter here. So what I'm able to do is actually say, well, maybe I'll look at a particular project and filter that down. Now that's removed everything from the board. So what I can do is taking a look at this in a bit more detail. I can see I've got an end date warning there letting me know my end date is approaching. I know I've got checklist items on this action, but I haven't done any of those yet. I know Colin is the owner, but I can also see on this action there are contributors, so there are people helping with this action. I'm able to access the chatter feed. So if I need to do any collaboration with colleagues, I can do that right from the whiteboard there. I'm also able to open up the checklist items. So as we're working through those, we can just come along and tick them off, and we can see they're just being kept up to date for us. I'm also able to edit the action there as well, so if I need to make any changes, I can do so via this page here. I'm also able to access the resource assignment wizard by clicking on this. Because I know there are contributors, I can see who's working on that. And I can also log my time from here as well. So if I need to log time against this action, what I can do is click on here, and I've got two options. I can either start tracking time, so I can go off and do the work, come back and then click stop. Otherwise what I can do is log time as if I've already done it, and that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to put in that I've just done 2 hours effort. I'm going to click on log time. That will go away, create my 2-hour entry, and it will automatically update the action from planned to in progress for me. Now we've just seen how we can log time from the whiteboard just a moment ago, but there are a number of other ways of being able to log your time within Mission Control. So let's take a look at those now. So this one here is the timesheet. So the timesheet loads up for an individual resource for a particular week, and it shows all of the actions that are assigned to that person for this week. So for each action we can see the project, the milestone, the action. We can see the billable and non-billable effort that's scheduled, completed and remaining, and then we can see any hours that have already been logged. Now if I want to remind myself what I did during that time, I can click on this information icon, and that will give me a pop-up note. So there's the notes that we entered while we were logging time from the whiteboard. Now while I'm here, I can say, well, I've just done another 3 hours here, so I'm going to change that to 5. I'm going to be double clicking into that field to put in some more notes. Now while I'm here I can say I also did 2 hours here and I did 1 hour there. So as I'm doing that I get a total for each day, I get a total for the week, and then once I'm finished I can click on save, and that will record that time for me. Now, in addition to logging time like I've just done there, I also have the ability to come down and start tracking time. So I could be clicking on the play button, going away, doing my work, coming back and clicking stop. Now I've also got access to log time from anywhere in Salesforce, so I'm deliberately going to jump onto the opportunities tab just to show you how I can access the utility bar. So down on the bottom here you'll see that we've got the ability to log time and expenses. So if I click the log time icon, that will give me a pop-up window. Now similar to the whiteboard, what I'm able to do is say, okay, well I'm working on this project. That will then filter down and I can get down to my milestones. That will filter down and show me my actions, and then I can come select an action and again put in some notes and specify how many hours work I've done. Once I'm happy, click on log time and that will record that time entry for me. Now the same time logger is available via the trackpad that we were looking at earlier on the project overview. So if I click on that, that will allow me to access the same time log component, and again what I'm able to do is specify my action, my notes, log my time and then submit that. So if we take a look at all of the time that we've been adding in during the demo, we'll take a look at the time logs tab on the project. We'll see that the actual line on the burn down is starting to move. We can see how many hours have been completed and what's remaining, and then if we scroll down you'll see that the hours are starting to get plotted onto the timeline there. Now I also have access to the same time logger available to me on the Salesforce One mobile app. So if I'm out and about and I need to log time, I can do that directly from my phone. We also have the ability to log our expenses against our projects in Mission Control, and again there's a number of ways of being able to do that. So first of all, what we're going to do is come to the console and click on the expense log. So this is a page that lets us load in multiple expenses across projects. So what I'll do is select the person that is incurring the expense. That pulls in their mileage rate. I'm also going to be saying, okay, well I need to add a few items to a few expenses to the list here. So what I'm going to do first of all is specify which project I'm submitting expenses against, and I'm just going to copy that down to these other two expenses here. So the first one might be accommodation. It happened today and it was for $200. So what I can do there is say, okay, well I'm submitting that. It might be that if it's a periodic project that's time and materials, I might not want to charge this back to the client, so I can mark it as non-billable if I need to. But this is billable, so I'm going to include it into the project, and then I'm just going to quickly fill in the other two expenses here. Now once I'm finished, click on create and that will go away and create those three expenses. Now again, anywhere in Salesforce I can be on any record in the system, and I've got access to the log expenses tab down the bottom here. So drawing on that utility bar, what I can do is open my log expenses, select the project that I'm working on, what the category is, and again I can put in the amount and any notes and submit that for approval. Now I also have the ability to upload a file here if I need to. So for example, if I'm wanting to attach a copy of an invoice or a receipt, I can do that there and click on log expenses. Now that's been added into the system. Now I can also log my expenses from the Salesforce One mobile app. So if I scroll down, I'll come to my expenses tab, I'll select that. What I'm going to do is click on new. Then I can put in the details of the expense. So I'm going to say which project it relates to, who incurred the expense, the category, when it happened, the amount and what it was for. So the scenario being here, I've just jumped out of a cab and I've got the receipt in my hand. So as well as submitting the expense, what I can do is also upload a copy of the receipt. So I'm just going to select that record. Down in the bottom left, I'm going to select the file. I'm going to take a photo. Click submit. Now that's uploading my receipt as part of my expense claim. As someone who has expenses to approve, I can come to the Expenses tab, to the Expenses requiring my approval list view, and I can see anything that's sitting there waiting for my approval. So I have the ability to adjust the adjust the approval status for any of these actions. So I can do that here. So just by changing these to approved, and save those. So they will disappear off my list, and then I can delve into the ones that I want to look at. So if I was to look at this expense that's been submitted by Chris and click on the related lists, I'd be able to see a copy of the receipt that he's uploaded as part of his expenses. If I then go back and view the project overview page for the project and jump onto the Expenses tab, I get summary charts there letting me know, what current state the expenses are in, and then I can see all of the expenses that have already been logged against that project. Within Mission Control, you can also generate invoices based on the work that's being done on projects. In this example project, we can see we've already generated an invoice for $3,000 that is in draft status with an invoice date of this and due date in 14 days. So if we drill into that, we can see if we expand the details, we'll be able to see the details of the items. So we can see that it's for a single line item for the completion of the design milestone, and we can see it's working out the amount plus any tax and the total amount. Now, if I want to take a look at the record in detail, simply click through. Now, what you can see is the full information of the invoice. What's also included is the ability to share this PDF of the invoice with your client without them needing access to Salesforce or Mission Control. So you can share this link with them. So, for example, if I open that now, you'll see I'm able to preview the invoice, so I can see all of my details. I've got my logo up there, so you've got the ability to brand this with your own logo, who I'm invoicing and what I'm invoicing them for, and the customer is also able to download a copy of the invoice as a PDF for their own records. Back on the billing event, what I'm able to do is actually also click on the related lists to record when we've received the payment. So I can come along here, say I've just received money, so fill in the details, save that. Now going back onto the billing tab of the project overview, we can see the summary charts have changed to reflect the money that's been paid and anything that's outstanding. And again, if I drill down into that billing event, we'll be able to see the payment there as well. The PMO Dashboard is a page that visualizes how your projects are performing to two KPIs. So what I'm able to do is load in the data for a particular week. So I get my CPI and my SPI. So my CPI is my cost performance index, and it tells me how my projects are running to budget. My SPI is my scheduled performance index and gives me an indication of how the projects are running to the timeline. So if I had a CPI of 1, I would be delivering perfectly to budget. If it's above 1, I'm doing even better. If it's below 1, I'm not doing so well. So you can see here, doing pretty well on the CPI, but the SPI isn't so good. Now what I'm able to do is drill down into the individual projects, get down to the milestone level, and right down to the actions, and figure out who we need to go and speak to try and get this project back on track. Now I can also load in a comparison data set, so I can say, well, show me how I'm running now against how I was running a few weeks ago. So you can see there that's loaded in a second set of data. Now obviously there's been a minor change on my CPI, so I might want to just address that. But certainly on the SPI, the timeline, something's dramatically going wrong. So we really need to get these guys to focus on this and potentially pull in some more resources. So this is a page that you would be looking at once a week, just to give yourself a real high level view of how the projects are performing. Now we saw earlier in the demo how we were able to build out a brand new project from scratch using the various tools in Mission Control, but we've also got a really cool feature that allows you to take a copy of an existing project. So if you have a project methodology that you apply to all your projects, and each one is similar to the last, what you're able to do is actually avoid building them out from scratch every time and actually just selecting an existing project and using that as a template. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to click on the clone button here. So that loads up a drafted version of the original project. So what I'm able to do is put in the name of the new project. I can link through to obviously who I'm going to be doing the work for. I can make those changes there. I can apply changes to any of the project settings if I need to. If I scroll down, you'll see it's pulled in a copy of all of the milestones, so design, build, and deliver, and then all of the actions that are contained within each one of those. So I'm able to make changes if I need to, but if I'm happy with that, I'm going to leave it as it is. Now I can come back to these project settings and say, okay, well, I also want to clone the checklist items as well. And it's assuming a start date of today, but what I can say is actually it's not going to start today, it's going to be starting in a couple of weeks. So reset the start date to the 19th. Now if I scroll down, you'll see that it's rescheduled everything, with the first action happening on the 19th and then everything else being scheduled out accordingly, keeping the same lead time between the actions from the original project. So in a matter of a couple of clicks there, I've been able to initiate a brand new project using an existing one as a template. Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to watch the demo. I hope you've seen the value that Mission Control can hopefully offer you and your business. A couple of things to be aware of. We offer a 14-day free trial, which you can install into your sandbox or into your production org simply by going to the App Exchange and clicking the Get It Now button. Mission Control will install within 2 minutes, and everything you've seen during the demo here today will just work out of the box. You'll also receive an email containing the Quick Start Guide, and by all means, if you would appreciate a live demo, more than happy for you to get in touch, and we can organize a time to do that. And also bear in mind, if you do need any support during the trial or ongoing, you can submit a support ticket via our support center, and or via the email address listed there. In terms of other resources that you might find of interest on the support center, there is a detailed user guide, there are various how-to training videos, there's an FAQ portal, and there's also a release notes section documenting all of the enhancements we've made over the years. I look forward to hopefully hearing from you guys. Thank you.